Good morning, it's Tuesday, June 16th, and we're going to continue our discussion on action and problem solving with a prompt from the Daily Stoic which reads, where do I need help? Who can I ask for? So 16 years after having completed my undergraduate program, I find myself somewhat skeptical over our concept of formalized higher education, the value that it brings, and the habits that it has the potential to create. Now, that's not a knock against teachers. I've been so fortunate to have learned from so many who still continue to impact me decades later. And I believe that teaching is one of the most underappreciated and underpaid professions out there. But I do question the system that many of us have been churned through. Specifically now, I'm referring to the undergraduate college experience. I spent the first 2 years crammed inside a 500-person auditorium, absorbing as much information as possible, regurgitating it when examined, and if I was successful enough, being allowed to move on. Done. You know chemistry now. Done. You can solve differential equations. There was very little critical thinking involved. Aside from the occasional office hour, it was a very autonomous experience. The curriculum was so rigid that excluding the selection of my major, I never felt the freedom to explore other paths. And as a result, I was able to successfully find my way to graduation without having had to ask for much help along the way. Then our societal expectation is that I'm armed with a degree. I should be fully prepared to take on adulthood, complete with all of its real-world complexities, many of which are far more serious than what I was exposed to in my insulated college environment. So there I arrive at my first day of work, not knowing what to do aside from just trying to fake it until I make it. That seemed to serve me well enough when I was in college, so why not just keep up with the same strategy? I was the youngest of my peer group and unwilling to ask for help, out of fear of judgment that my lack of knowledge signaled my inferiority. If that's how I felt on day one, it was about to get a lot more limiting. As the further I got into my tenure as an adult, the less likely I was to admit that I didn't know something or allow myself to seek outside assistance. That behavior is the hallmark of a fixed mindset. And I've talked about my transition before towards a growth mindset, but with the benefit of hindsight, I now realize how restrictive and sub-optimized that perspective and my associated behaviors were. The relationships that I developed with one coach in particular taught me the necessity of asking for help. I began to recognize how much more I could accomplish with the support of another. I didn't have to figure out everything on my own. It was then that I finally began to understand Marcus Aurelius' reminder to himself: don't be ashamed of needing help. You have a duty to fulfill, just like a soldier on the wall of battle. So what if you're injured and can't climb up without another soldier's help? Admittedly, despite the fact that I now recognize this, I still struggle with asking for help. I'm far more comfortable seeking it in books than asking for assistance or guidance in person. But I'm making progress here. Finding an environment that is supportive of this kind of growth provides real benefit. I'm currently working through a program that encourages this kind of collaborative exploration of growth and development. And it's incredibly freeing and empowering to see what we're capable of when we acknowledge where we need assistance and then make the request for support. I know that any community I'm involved with going forward needs to actively promote and capitalize upon this interdependentness. It has to be a space that eagerly gives and receives support for all involved parties. It has to be a recognition that there is no shame in needing help. After all, we're far stronger together than we are on our own. Hope you have a great day. Bye.